to D&D Beyond, and today I have brought the magical, what is an adjective form of wizard? See, I gotta pre-write these things. I brought the incandescent Saige Ryan here to talk all about magic with me because we are gonna do a spell spotlight on Dunamancy, the magic of potential, of time and space, and in some cases, reality itself. And to get into that, I thought I would grab the always spellcaster, always amazing Sage. How you doing today?
Oh my goodness, that intro was so hype. I loved that. Incandescent? Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting confidence boost from today's stream that I am taking away from this, but I'm very excited to be here.
A little bardic inspiration never hurts at the top. So I am very excited to dive into this because, of course, we are talking. We're very excited for Call of the Netherdeep. So as you've probably noticed if you've been watching these streams, I'm going back through all the stuff in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount that we didn't talk about in videos yet, or that I just want to talk about again. And in this case, that is the suite of new spells that was introduced to D&D with the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount 2 years ago. Now, you can get a great introduction to this immediately by going to the article that was posted, I want to say in March 2 years ago, by our own James Hake, alumnus of D&D Beyond and co-writer of Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, um, who has written an introductory guide to the, just over a dozen spells that were introduced with Explorer's Guide to Wildemount that relate to this field of magic. But we are going to pick out a few faves. First, a few sort of lower level ones, and then a few more terrifying possibilities that you get with your Dunamancy on today's stream. So please, if you have questions about these or things, favorites, comments, please pass those in the chat, and the mods are collecting them for us to dive into today. So to start with, overall, we talked about Dunamis on this stream when we did the Echo Knight Fighter Spotlight a couple of weeks ago. But the deal, basically, it's the primal magical energy of potentiality and actuality. And of course, that magic is wielded notably by some very important and beloved and feared NPCs in Critical Role's second campaign, which took place in Wildemount. So we're not going to get into detailed spoilers on the way these spells were used or showed up in the game, but you do get some very fun inspiration if you have happened to see those episodes. And of course, they brought them into the game with the book, and now you can have them at your table, each of them potentially available. So let's start with who can use these spells. They are designed right off to be available to the two wizard subclasses that are introduced in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, the Chronodragist and the Graviturgist. If I got that right. Sometimes I mix those up. There we go. Chronodragist and Graviturgist wizards should have access to these as part of their spell list, but crucially, there is a subsection on Dunamancy for the non-Dunamancer, which I have in here somewhere.
I really love this part of the idea because I do enjoy anything that allows me to slightly more harass my GM with just chaos. It's like it wasn't enough that I'm going to ask if I can use Unearthed Arcana. I'm also going to ask if I can have spells outside of my class. And I just feel like that level of tension was something I needed to have in my wheelhouse.
And because you are exactly correct, there is there's guidance here for maybe this spell, the school of magic is it's not an official school of magic, but maybe this branch of magic or type of magic doesn't exist in the same way in your game, but the spells themselves don't make reference to Dunamancy, so you can put them in anywhere that you and your DM agree is appropriate, and potentially make them available through in-game experiences, through other ways of acquiring magic. If you've faced a foe who has this kind of magic, or you find the appropriate kind of scroll. So, Sage, first thoughts on the broad Dunamancy types of magic.
I am obsessed with this. I love this kind of like reality breaking and bending magic. I think that it's so much fun, and partially because it makes me feel like I'm in Endgame. Like I definitely am feeling some end game, some Stone's goodness, some Doctor Strange fun from it. And I really do, at the end of the day, just want to be a questionably moral superhero.
So I I'm remembering which spells you picked as some of your favorites, and getting very excited already by the possibilities here. Uh, but of course, a hallmark for the spells that we're going to talk about is manipulating chance, manipulating space, and manipulating time. And none of those are things that are brand new to D&D, but they are concentrated here into some really interesting options for your character. And I would say a thing that threads through them is usually that a lot of these are sort of situationally really interesting. You won't necessarily want to use this all the time, but in the right moment, to set something up for someone else in your party to act on, you get some really cool possibilities here. So let's start out with those low level spells. There's one new cantrip that was introduced, and this is one that James talks about in the Spotlight article, but it is the Sapping Sting. So the Sapping Sting is a necromancy spell. It saps the vitality of one creature you can see in range, which is 30 feet for this one. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or take 1d4 necrotic damage and fall prone.
That's
The spell's
very
damage
fun for a
increases
cantrip.
with levels. So
I really enjoy that.
A thing that James notes in the article that I hadn't thought through until I had read the spell spotlight was that while 1d4 might not be the most damage, first of all, it's a cantrip, so you can do it forever, which I love, but also that causing a creature to fall prone will interrupt them flying around, which has some very fun possibility if you manage to sapping sting somebody out of the air. Uh,
Ooh, that is a very fun use of it because you've got that 30 feet. That would be really, really great. I think that that's a fun idea for it. And anyway, I agree that this also leans into the idea of, like, helping the next person in initiative, helping the people that are coming after you. They're able to fall prone. That might just be the thing that the more powerful person next to me if I'm playing a wizard, I understand I'm not the DPS for the party necessarily, depending on my build, but if I'm in initiative before the barbarian, on the other hand, and I can knock somebody prone, they might be able to really come in clutch with the next turn.
Absolutely. So paying attention to that secondary effect is really going to sort of determine when you might want to throw this one at people. And again, you can do it whenever you want. And Sage, just to play to your interest, we started with the necromancy spell.
Thank you very much.
Now, there are two first level spells introduced. One is Magnify Gravity, which has exactly as delicious an effect as you might imagine. But another one that I think is just worth a mention is the Gift of Alacrity, which is a divination spell that just straight up gives people a bonus to initiative for 8 hours, I want to say. Um, Hold on. Yeah.
Yes, it is 8
Uh,
hours.
it takes a minute to cast. It's a touch spell, but the willing creature that you touched can add 1d8 to its initiative rolls all day long.
That's
So
not a
depending
small
on
buff.
yeah, yeah. Sage, would you read me a description of the level 2 spell Fortune's Favor?
Ooh, absolutely. All right. So, Fortune's Favor is another divination spell. You impart latent luck on yourself or one willing creature that you can see within range. When you choose the creature, that makes an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw before the spell ends. It can dismiss this spell on itself to roll an additional d20 and choose which of the d20s to use. It's giving essentially an advantage to that. Alternatively, when an attack roll is made against the chosen creature, it can dismiss this spell on itself to roll a d20 and choose which of the d20s to use, the one it rolled or the one the attacker rolled. So I can say, no, no, hold on. And if assuming my duck license, wow, my luck for dice, as opposed to a duck lice,
Well, it sounded
my
like duck license, like we were gonna do a
correct.
duck season, rabbit season thing, which should be its
And
own
my
set of
brain was
spells,
set
honestly.
on it. Assuming the lice that I'm gonna give up on speaking. You go ahead.
No. It's assuming it essentially gives you some extra luck. If you don't have the lucky feet ready, if you are not a halfling, if you do not have some other things to hand, you can not only have this kind of thing, but gift it to your party members. So once again, this is a great teamwork kind of spell.
My brain just 100% short circuited and I am not putting it back together. I think this is really fun because I like the idea of somebody succeeding and you just going, absolutely not. Try again.
No, this has been an interesting one. Silvery Barbs, of course, came in with Strixhaven, so there are a whole lot of ways to just sort of mess with the like maybe not ability going on in the ecosystem of D&D. But I think this one is the first of all right. I know this is not a mechanical concern at all, but Fortune's Favor is a fantastic spell name.
It is.
And I there is an art to making things memorable, easy to understand, flavorful, fit in the world, and just chef's kiss on the naming on this one. But I do think it's a really interesting thing. It's a second level spell, so it's not cheap. It's not, especially if you're low level, it's not going to be free or easy to use. But to pick up alongside your other repertoire of stuff to flavor out your specific Dunamancy wielding magic user, I think this is a beautiful ability and one that jumped out to me.
Yeah, I think it does lean
Mm,
into that Doctor Strange, I kind of control the greater universe and how this is going to go and what the outcome will be.
mhm.
So if nothing else, there's a very fun role play element to that of being that person in your party that manipulates luck in many ways. That would be very, very fun.
Which we were also talking about on a recent stream that the comic book versions of Scarlet Witch very much have had things like this, where she has a hex power if things fall on you, and luck based powers like Domino and Longshot. A lot of that we were just talking to Xander about his cleric of luck. But it
Amazing.
all has beautiful flavor possibilities. Speaking of which, the other low level spell, look, these are the ones that compel me because they're very specific, but they allow for such interesting story and game possibilities. I love Wrist Pocket.
Ooh, wrist
Sage,
pocket's
would you
fun.
read what Wrist Pocket will do for you?
Yeah, I promise I can do better this time. You flick your wrist, causing one object in your hand to vanish. The object, which you can only be holding and can weigh no more than 5 pounds, is transported to an extra dimensional plane where it remains for the duration. Until the spell ends, you can use your action to summon the object back to a free hand, and you can use your action to return the object to the extra dimensional space. An object still in the pocket plane when the spell ends appears in your space at your feet. So if it ends and you didn't remember to summon it back, your item's not gone forever, which is great. This is so fun. What an excellent game of keep away through a spell. I love this. What is this great villain? You need this very important gem that I have stolen from your lair. So sorry. Goodbye. And then I just definitely want you to, like, reach and pull it out from behind a villain's ear, like, 100%, like
It is absolutely a close-up magic kind of spell. It just it can throw people off. It has that I feel like you have to flavor this even if nobody's looking when you hide it. You have to do like the little wrist flourish of like now you see it, now it's gone.
Yes.
Of course it calls to classic things like old school anime fans will be familiar with the concept of hammer space, which is where you get your comedy hammer when you need to beat something up and then just disappears again. It clearly exists in a little pocket dimension where it's just full of hammers. Um, this will only work with a 5 pound object, so it's not quite that, but it has such fun flavory possibilities. Search me, I don't have it on me. Now it's a concentration spell, which means if they catch you and they start trying to threaten you and they hurt you, you could lose concentration and that thing could pop right back into existence, which is a whole extra tension. Like you got to keep it together or they're going to find the thing. You know what I mean?
That's so fun.
And also just good for stealing and smuggling and having secret objects around your person, which it just makes you seem more mysterious in general.
Yeah, absolutely, and, like, this is something that I think when you're not in, like, necessarily initiative or in danger in any way, it's a fun thing that you can, like, play with for your party. You can build something into your character that, like, you regularly have this one thing that people are always like, "Where did that come from? What are you doing? What do you mean? You're just
How do you
throwing
always
around a
have a
tennis
sandwich?
ball. Where did you get a tennis ball?"
And of course, this is a spell that can be cast as a ritual. So while it would eat up, it's a second level spell. If you've got some time, you can plan this out and therefore have all the tennis ball shenanigans that you really want. Um, so let's see. There is that is not all of the low level spells. There's also Immovable Object, which is a transmutation spell that comes. But out of the sort of lower level ones, Sage, do you have a favorite or a way that you would want to use one of these spells?
Ooh. That's so interesting. I actually think Immovable Object is really, really fun. I can't help but, like, canonically, this school of magic is very, like, trickstery to me, or this, like, subclass of magic, subset of magic. So a lot of it to me is, um, very taunting at a low level. So the idea of having something and placing it there in front of someone, like, let's say you're going to make a deal and you need to buy time. So you set the item in front of them and you're like, okay, you take it, you release the hostage to us. We're doing a trade, immovable object. And the fact that they just like can't pick it up is so funny to me. Just I don't know, maybe you'll buy the party a little bit of time. They're rolling in for the attack. There's a secret word that now goes out. Everybody's coming in from the ceiling on ropes. It's very dramatic in my mind.
Well, and I think that's key. Obviously, yes, we want spells that do a lot of damage. We want spells that really maximize our resources. We want all of that stuff. But it's also Dungeons and Dragons. It's about the cool stories we make with our friends and the kind of spells that give you ideas like that, that sort of make you want to, if you can pull it off, the scenario where this becomes a clutch spell is when you're going to remember for a really long time. I love that. Um,
Do you
Ooh,
have a
Key
favorite of the
Squared has
lower
a
level ones?
what?
Do you have a favorite of the lower level ones?
Oh, um, it's probably Wrist Pocket.
This Pocket is really fun.
I just Wrist Pocket is another very great name, but B just such a cool if you add it to your repertoire alongside the other things that you can do, it's such a nicely limited, interesting, flavorful tool to have at your advantage. I mean, you could have a secret pocket in your clothes, but like this is that on a mystical level, and it's just so appealing as an option. I think it's really cool.
Totally agreed.
T Squared asks, coming at these spells from another direction, what would be a fun way to have these spells for an NPC who would be interesting and challenging without being frustrating? And would that be a good way to introduce such magic into a campaign?
I think that would be really fun. I mean, we were just talking about the ability to introduce these spells if you don't have somebody necessarily that has access to this magic in it. There is the possibility of somebody appearing in your campaign that has the ability to teach someone some of these spells. I think that there are very like fun, flamboyant NPC ideas that come to mind for me with these that are just a fun opportunity for you to do a silly voice and get over the top and do little trickery and close up magic and someone that has a lot of questions around them. Which I think is very interesting for an NPC. If somebody's going to come along and lead me somewhere, if I don't understand how they're doing things, I want to know everything I can. That's how you get me to like really invest in your NPC is like, wait, but how do they do that? What is that? Where did it go?
I mean, there's a reason that trick works on us as people, it works on us as players, it works on us as characters. It's just, it's a pretty basic, fantastic hook for sentient beings, I want to say, of all varieties. Now, if you are interested in any of the spells that we are talking about, you can pick them up with Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, or you can go in D&D Beyond and get them a la carte, the spells that you are interested in, because you can buy either elements from the book or the balance of the book, which will be chipped away at a little bit as you pick up elements you're interested in over time. Um, just as a general thing there. And of course, if your DM rules it, anyone can have these spells. It's between you and your DM who has appropriate access to these. I just think they're neat.
Yeah, same.